Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Alyssa. In case you are new here, welcome and thank you so much for clicking on my video today. So today, in today's video, we have a very special character that most of you may not have heard of, maybe some of you have. He's never made an appearance in the Marvel movies, but he is actually making his first appearance in the upcoming Black Widow movie, so that is why I decided to talk about Taskmaster today. I'm so sorry to say that there is no Black Widow in this particular story today, but there's going to be a bunch of other Marvel characters that you guys have pretty much all heard of. Well, most of them you've probably heard of, some of them you may not have heard of. So at least you get some characters that you know, and it should be fun as well to meet some other new characters. I have a playlist that I will link in the description box where I have more of my get ready with me's talking about comic book characters. It's a fairly new playlist. Just for right now, I'm going to be focusing on characters that pertain to the Black Widow movie, just to kind of get you all excited about it. I do have a few in that playlist right now pertaining to the Black Widow movie, so check those out if you haven't seen those already. I'm gonna stop rambling. I hope you enjoy this interesting video about Taskmaster's first appearance, and thank you for watching. Starting with the cover on Avengers 195, we have a bunch of things going on. We've got Yellowjacket on the cover, and we've got Ant-Man on the cover, and they're both shrunken down to their super power size. Then we've got Wasp seemingly on some sort of like table or something with a glass box around her head, and it says on the cover, "Assault on a Mind Cage," featuring Ant-Man, Yellowjacket, and the Wasp together for the first time. So that's pretty cool. Ants attack, or else the Wasp will become a mindless slave. Oh boy. But this story actually starts in the middle of a small arc. So if you guys remember, I think I explained it on a video a while back, but in case you missed it, I'll kind of explain what an arc is. So for a story arc, obviously because, well, let's just say Avengers. So this series, Avengers, goes on and on to like hundreds of issues, right? So they're not just gonna have, you know, whatever it is, hundreds of issues of the same ongoing story. So they break the issues up into short little story arcs. So we've got, it's typically like 2, 3, sometimes 4 issues, you know, in a row would be like one story arc. So you don't really typically find just one single story in one issue, because the comic books are so small that it's just like, that would be a really, really short story. Now the actual story. At the beginning of this story, we have the Avengers, and they are outside of this kind of mansion looking building. And in this particular time in the Avengers storyline, there are a few Avengers that you have probably heard of before, and then some you may not have heard of. The Avengers at this time are Vision, Captain America, Iron Man, Beast. If you guys remember Beast, he was in, I think, one of the X-Men movies. He's the blue character. The Wasp, Wonder Man, who I don't think he's ever made an appearance in a movie yet, correct me if I'm wrong. And then we have a newly appointed Avenger whose name is Joe Costa, and then we have Miss Marvel. And for those of you that don't know, that before Captain Marvel was Captain Marvel, she was actually Miss Marvel. So she's the same person as Captain Marvel, so Carol Danvers, and just at this point in time she is Miss Marvel, in case you guys didn't know. And then for this arc, we have 2 honorary Avengers joining in just for this story. So we have Hank Pym, who is Yellowjacket, and then we have Scott Lang, who is Ant-Man. So they're outside this mansion because in the last issue, the Wasp went inside there because there was this man named Selby who came to the Avengers mansion for some help. he was kind of outside and wandering the streets looking for them. His story just seemed kind of sketchy to them, but the Wasp had a little bit of compassion for him and she wanted to help him out. And then there were some men that showed up to the Avengers mansion to take the Selby guy back to where he escaped from, which was the Solomon Institution. And this is where he was a so-called patient there, is what they said. And then when she didn't show up for an Avengers meeting, they actually were concerned, and so they kind of went after her and searched for her. Next, they introduce Yellowjacket and Ant-Man into the story as being called on by the Avengers for this particular task, since their abilities are similar to what the Wasps are, and so they thought that they would really help in this situation. They devise a way to sneak inside by shrinking down in size and just kind of maneuver through all the cracks and crevices of the building. And as they were going around from room to room, it appeared that this institution wasn't all it appeared to be at all. So that immediately raised a red flag in their mind. They saw what looked to be like empty barracks, and then they saw in another room some guys battling what looked like to be like training an army. And then finally in another room they saw a bunch of people sitting around a table kind of discussing, looking through people's profiles and just kind of sifting through and seeing what the best candidates would be for battle. And that is when Yellowjacket realized what was actually going on. And then from behind an ant appears, and it's one of Ant-Man's friends, I guess you could call him, and they said that they had found the Wasp in another room, and so the two guys go there and try to get her. I have a bug bite like right there. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it is super bothering me. It's just like one little dot right there, and I'm super annoyed with it. Do you guys have any tricks like how to make that go away? So they get to her and they see in this room that she's unconscious and that her head is in this glass box, and it appears that the chamber is filled with some kind of sleeping gas, so she's knocked out unconscious. Yellowjacket and Ant-Man, they get inside the room and they knock out the guys that are inside that room, kind of watching over Janet. Then they free her from this glass box. She tells them that when she followed Selby and the men back to the Institute, she could immediately tell that something was off. So she followed them into his cell, and when the guys left, she went back to normal size to go up to Selby and kind of ask him what's going on. Apparently they were being monitored, so while they're in the cell there was sleeping gas released into there so that it could knock both of them out, and that was the last thing that she remembered. And then Scott brings up a good point. He says, well, you know, if they were monitoring you in that cell, what makes you think that they're not monitoring us right now? And then sure enough, they try to hightail it out of there, but are met face to face with a bunch of these guys. Janet points out that one of them, seemingly to be the leader, looks exactly like Selby, only a little bit older. Well, not a little bit older, like I think she said like 30 years or so older. He then responds by agreeing and saying that he is Selby, sort of. He then tells the three of them to come back with him and to not try any heroism bunny business because his men are specially trained to handle the abilities that these guys have. Next, we have a shot of the Avengers outside showing the first sign of concern over the situation, but they still wait it out anyways. Back inside, we have this leader whose name is Dr. Solomon. He explains that he was born with a weak heart, and due to other health circumstances, his only option was to have a heart that was an exact clone to his, only stronger. This clone of his was created, and the younger clone caught wind of the situation and he bolted, seeking out the Avengers for help. And then Janet says to him, well, I mean, if you're smart enough to create this clone, why aren't you smart enough to just create like an artificial heart or something? Why do you have to create this clone and then have his heart ripped out? You know, that's just so cruel. He revealed that he's actually not that smart and that there's a bigger plan at stake here. Also, he's not even the mastermind behind this whole operation. And Dr. Solomon notices Yellowjacket's wings kind of buzzing behind him, and so he warns him any attempt at a fight would just be BAM! Just like that, his guys are hit with Yellowjacket's Destructor Blast. And then now the three of them have a chance to escape. The guards attempt to shoot their guns, but it's filled with ants, so they can't, and these three are just whooping everyone's behind. Just as they're able to escape, Janet tells the guys to follow her so that they can rescue Selby. Outside, where the rest of the Avengers are waiting, they get a surprise. They see an aircraft landing on the rooftop of the building, and that kind of puts them on even more high alert. This so-called mastermind has arrived. Back inside, the Wasp, Yellowjacket, and Ant-Man knock out the guard that's outside of Selby's cell, and then Janet goes inside to rescue Selby, and when they try to get out, they are met in the doorway by a new surprise guest, and this is the Taskmaster. Okay, we're on to issue 196 now, and the cover on this has Taskmaster on the front, and it says, anything the Avengers can do, I can do better. He's looking for men who like to kill. Introducing the treacherous Taskmaster. I think we actually have 1 or 2 copies of this book because my husband wanted to get it a long time ago, like years ago, so we got it super cheap. The battle wasn't shown between the other three, but this story starts with Ant-Man, Wasp, and Yellowjacket having been captured by Taskmaster, and they are now bound by their hands and feet in kind of an upright position, and they have these clamps that are on them, and they're actually specifically structured to block the atomic restructuring in their limbs. If they were to try and shrink down in size, then their hands and feet would not be able to do so, which would obviously not be a good situation for them. So then Janet asks Taskmaster, like, what's going on? Like, what's the bigger plan here? What's exactly going on? And he pretty much explains everything. He's essentially the hired help in creating these armies, and this guy's abilities are just incredible. He calls out all the soldiers to try and take him down so that he can show off, and he takes them down with barely any effort at all. Then these three are stunned by what they're witnessing. That goes for everyone else in the room, even Dr. Solomon and Selby, because they hadn't seen it up until this point. He then explains his backstory a little bit, and ever since he was young, he's had the ability to see something, and then when he's able to mimic it, like, just perfectly without fail. He kind of saw the bigger picture opportunity in this, in being able to copy what the Avengers do. So he started copying them, and he could have easily gone out and become an Avenger himself because of this, but ultimately the reason he didn't was because there is just more money in being a supervillain. Taskmaster turns to Solomon, and he kind of starts to rip him a new one for blowing up his master plan, and by using Taskmaster's science to be selfish and create a clone to replace his vile heart. He says, okay, then try to defeat me, and if you do, then I'll let you live. Of course, Solomon knew that he couldn't defeat him after he had just witnessed what all these army guys just did to him, or what he did to the army guys, rather. But these were Taskmaster's stipulations, so Solomon grabbed a blaster, aimed it at Taskmaster, and fired. Of course, Taskmaster barely even flinched. It did nothing. Then Solomon starts freaking out because he doesn't want to die, and then all of a sudden his heart just kind of gives out. Just how perfect, how fitting is it that his heart would just give out? Like, that's just the perfect ending for this dude. So he's essentially dead. I'm gonna do my mascara and eyeliner really quick off camera, then I'll be right back. Okay, back. So now that Dr. Solomon was gone, since he was an administrator of the building, Taskmaster had his sights set on aging up Selby. That way people wouldn't know the difference and they would just think that it's Dr. Solomon, in order to not tip off anybody from like the outside world. Back outside, we have the Avengers still standing by, and then all of a sudden Iron Man gets swarmed with ants on his helmet, and before he could react by killing all of them off, he realizes that they're not actually attacking him and that it's a sign that they're trying to get his attention for help. Avengers assemble time. They bust their way inside and they're met with Taskmaster and his army. The battle starts and they're kicking the army's butt. And while distracted, Selby, he hits one of the army guys in the back and knocks him out and takes his gun from him, and he blasts the controls that are keeping Ant-Man, Wasp, and Yellowjacket locked into place. So they get freed and they're able to help in the battle now that they're freed. Just as Captain America tries to take on Taskmaster, he's realizing that this is not going to be an easy battle. And Iron Man also tries to tag team in taking down Taskmaster, but he's having a hard time shaking him down as well. Taskmaster decides to try and flee the situation. So he closes the door behind him and thinks that he's able to evade them, but then he's met with Jocasta. Now, this is someone he's never met before, so he has no way to predict what her moves are going to be like, as opposed to the other Avengers. He tries to strike her, but she engages her force field, and then she fires back at him. And just then, the Wasp and Yellowjacket fly in to try to finish him off. Next, the rest of the Avengers and Selby show up, and in the blink of an eye, realizing that he can't take on all of them at once, Taskmaster flees. He's gone. Poof. And the story ends with Captain America praising Jocasta for her help and essentially welcoming her to the team. Okay, I think all I have left is lips, so I'm gonna do that and be back. And now my hair just decided it wanted to go flat, so that's what we're working with. I hope you guys enjoyed this get ready with me chatty video about Taskmaster, and if you guys have any other recommendations for any other characters, leave them in the comments below. Like I said, right now I'm kind of focused on Black Widow storyline characters for her upcoming movie, but for any future videos I would love suggestions. Ooh. Love it when that happens. If you guys like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and ring the notification bell. That way you're notified when I post next. And yeah, guys, I think that is it. I will see you guys in my next one, and that's it. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.